here we are at the end of another year, and it wouldn't be an end of the year without a recap of my favourite games of the past 12 months. You may have noticed, since you can hear me, that I have decided to do this in video format this year instead of written. I didn't create as many videos as I would have liked this year, so this is my way of making up for that and reinvigorating my love of video creation for the next year. This year has been interesting, both inside and outside of games. As the world continues to spin itself into a tumultuous frenzy with no real sign of letting up anytime soon, video games have once again managed to provide a safe, comfortable haven. And while I felt this year didn't contain any significant game changers, which makes sense as we reach the end of a generation, it did provide some fantastic series-topping additions to existing franchises, and some neat games that came out of nowhere. Before we get into the top 10 itself, I would like to make a couple of shout-outs to some games that didn't quite make my list. The first of those is Outer Wilds, a game that I saw many people raving about but that I only played very recently. Outer Wilds is a spacefaring exploration game that sticks you in a 22-minute time loop and tasks you with solving its mystery hidden in the deep vastness of the galaxy. To say much more would be spoiling it, but this game does some interesting and awe-inspiring things with its narrative and world that I've not really seen in other games. However, I think it fell victim to overhype to me because as much as I tried, I didn't end up feeling the spark that others had. I still want to recognise it here, however, as a unique experience that you should absolutely try out. Then we have Baba Is You, a puzzle game that tasks you with unravelling the logic of what makes video games tick. No puzzle game has ever made me feel so smart while feeling so stupid, as my girlfriend and I would whiz through some levels and spend up to an hour on the next. It's a remarkably original experience that is sometimes too smart for its own good. Sadly we didn't finish it, but I loved what I did play. And the final game in my before list recognitions is Gears 5. Gears 5 continues the story of humanity's war against the alien locust and tries to take the series in a new direction with semi-open world spaces mixed within its more traditional linear levels. The game is gorgeous, feels great to play, and would absolutely be on my top 10 list if, for one reason or another, we hadn't been distracted playing something else. And with that, it's on to the main event. 10 games with only one on top. Let's begin. Number 10. Fortnite Chapter 2. Look, I know Fortnite was on my list last year, but it felt wrong not to include it again considering how much of it I played of it since Chapter 2 has come out. While it's very much still more Fortnite, the new map mixes things up enough to make it feel entirely fresh, while introducing swimming, fishing, boats, and more things including water. This map feels like Epic has taken everything it learned over the first couple of years and formed it into something that works for what the game is now. There's no tilted towers in this map, no one area that feels better than the rest, and as such it feels like no matter what your skill level, it's all to play for. The addition of bots into the games and skill-based matchmaking to help you improve and play against people of your own level is fantastic too, and has led to me no longer cowering away in a corner all match, but actually building my skills to the point where I'm happy and get excited to get into firefights. It has managed to renew my interest in Fortnite and completely draw my girlfriend in too, giving us a game to jump in and play together whenever we want, and I'm very excited to see where it goes next.
Oh, hell yeah! Respect the peace.
Number 9. Cadence of Hyrule. If you had told me at the start of the year that the Zelda game I would end up putting on my Game of the Year list was a rhythm game made by the Crypt of the Necrodancer people, then I'd have laughed in your face.
I mean, that's crazy, right? There's a Link's Awakening remake coming out. I mean, what are the odds that an indie developer would even be allowed near one of Nintendo's biggest franchises, you absolute fool?
And yet, look at this. A Zelda game made by the Crypt of the Necrodancer team with remixed chiptune music by Danny Baranowski. Be still, my beating heart. I love Crypt of the Necrodancer, with its randomised dungeons and funky beats, but was so unsure about how that would work within a Zelda setting. But they straight up created a Zelda game, with overworlds, dungeons, puzzles and the like, all explored and completed to the beat of the soundtrack. This was my holiday game. Once I started playing, I didn't want to put it down to the point that I ended up 100%ing it. It's short, sweet, and gets into your head like a catchy song. If this is what happens when Nintendo lets smaller developers have a shot at their properties, then I am all for more of this. Now please Nintendo, release the damn soundtrack. Number 8. A Short Hike. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm the biggest fan of Animal Crossing. Very few games can match its friendly animal companions, cutesy humour and laid-back attitude, but I've always wondered what would happen if you took those concepts and put them in a game that wasn't a life sim. Enter A Short Hike, a game by developer Adam Robinson Yu. A Short Hike follows a bird named Claire as she traverses Hawk Peak Provincial Park in order to reach the mountain summit and gets her much needed cell phone reception. It's that rare sort of game that manages to be both exciting and peaceful, with new experiences round every corner, mini-games to play, animal friends to chat to, and things to collect. With its lo-fi art style and gorgeous music, A Short Hike is a joy from start to finish. It is never difficult, never taxing, but always fun. I've seen it described as Animal Crossing meets Breath of the Wild, on a miniature scale, and I would be inclined to agree. Whatever you try to do, wherever you explore, you're rewarded with something. It's a short game, but a true delight, and is almost enough to make me want to go out on a hiking adventure all of my own. Number 7. Fire Emblem 3 Houses. What if you took Harry Potter, removed the transphobic writer, made it into anime, and forced all of the students to fight their classmates to the death over the course of a grand and epic story of hope, politics, love and betrayal? You'd get Fire Emblem 3 Houses, or as I like to call it, Anime Fight School. While still being a turn-based strategy like the others, Fire Emblem 3 Houses turns the series on its head by setting it in a school with you as a teacher. There's downtime between the battles, which lets you explore and get to know your students and colleagues more personally. I've always liked the Fire Emblem games, but the added RPG aspects and the chance to more directly get to know the other characters in the game allowed me to love it. Suddenly I cared more about these characters than I have in any other Fire Emblem before this. As I continued through the battles, pushing my students further, I grew genuinely attached to them, as I saw them open up not only new fighting skills, but new facets of their personality. Walls and barriers broke down, and I was given the opportunity to get to know these people better, discovering what made them tick. Suddenly they were no longer cannon fodder for wars they shouldn't be involved in, but friends and lovers that I was fighting alongside, protecting what we felt was right. And when it came to the times where I messed up in my planning and one would be killed by the enemy, I was filled with devastation, unless it was Lawrence, who absolutely sucks. The story is interesting, the battles and mechanics are great, but nothing compares to the bonds formed with my students. Bonds that will stick in my memory for a long time to come. Number 6. Sayonara Wild Hearts. I don't think there exists a more stylish game this year than Sayonara Wild Hearts. It's a pop album in video game form. Sayonara Wild Hearts is a dreamy tale of love and heartbreak, of putting yourself back together after you've been ripped apart. It's absolutely gorgeous, with its neon colour palette and cyberworld art design, and some of the most catchy music I've ever heard in a game. I've been listening to the soundtrack since I finished the game, and I honestly feel it stands on its own. That I'm able to play an arcade-style game to the music as well is a bonus. While not a long game, Sayonara Wild Hearts doesn't let up from the moment it begins to when it finishes. No other game has made me audibly say wow as much this year. This was another game that I didn't want to put down even when I finished it. It took over my life for a short while as I worked through trying to unlock a gold rank on every single stage, and now nests warmly in the part of my brain that controls the tapping of my foot and the skip of my heartbeat. Wild Hearts never die. Number 5. Super Mario Maker 2. My experience with Mario Maker 2 is going to be different to the ones that others have with the game. I started Twitch streaming properly this year, and my main streaming game has been Mario Maker 2, where I encourage viewers to submit their levels for me to complete. As such, I got to not only see a wide medley of the sorts of levels that Mario Maker 2 has to offer, but also interact with the creators of said levels to understand what makes them tick. Through this, I've seen so much of what someone could do with Mario Maker 2. I've seen concepts and ideas that I wouldn't have expected. Like the first, this game is so deep, with so much open to you that simply playing on random or picking the top levels of each day means you may not even see the wide breadth of content available. Which is a shame, but that ultimately doesn't take away from just how much game is here. With a full-on campaign mode to get your creative juices flowing and such vast creation tools that there really is no limit to what you may want to make. Mario Maker 2 has provided me some of my favourite gaming moments of the year, and with a recent update adding additional tools and gameplay, it's showing no sign of slowing down. Mario Maker is one of the few games that I can see myself coming back to for a long time, where there will always be something new waiting for me. And what other games can cause reactions like this? I've done it! I did it! Oh god. Not many, that's for sure. Number 4. Devil May Cry 5. Remember when I said there didn't exist a more stylish game this year than Sayonara Wild Hearts? I may have lied. Devil May Cry 5 is style. What does that mean? Who knows? But from the gorgeous visuals, incredible music and action gameplay to rival even Bayonetta, Devil May Cry starts strong and just gets stronger. The story is beautiful, corny nonsense, and the game is well aware of that, never taking itself seriously for a second, while being effortlessly cool with its dorkiness. This is a game that makes you feel like an anime badass, no matter how you play. The way the game switches between 3 characters keeps the gameplay interesting at all times, and each of the characters are cool as heck in their own way. Nero, the hero from the last game, has a robotic arm that can transform into different weapons, including a rocket that you can skateboard around on. Dante, the protagonist of the series, fights with swords, guns, and a damn motorbike that turns into 2 buzzsaws to attack with. Then there's V, who looks like a goth version of Adam Driver. V summons demons to fight his battles for him, while he stands at the back reading William Blake poetry. That last part isn't a joke, there's a dedicated poetry button. It's so stupid while being entirely my shit. Devil May Cry 5 is an acid trip of fun from start to finish. Running around its demonised London, fighting crazed enemies and incredible bosses, it's a real return to form for a series that has been otherwise entirely absent for this generation. Can it be topped by another game in the future? I don't know, but with rocket-propelled arms and, I repeat, a motorcycle that turns into a buzzsaw, does it need to? Number 3. Pokemon Sword and Shield. If you followed the release of this game online, you wouldn't be able to help but see the rage and vitriol that was being directed towards the worst Pokemon game ever made. Leaks and reviews for those who sped through the game early got everyone wound up into a tizzy, with pitchforks out declaring this to be a travesty of the biggest proportions and a game that has ruined the Pokemon legacy. What a load of rubbish. Pokemon Sword and Shield is some of the most fun I've had playing a Pokemon game since Black and White 2. It's still Pokemon, and if you've played a Pokemon game before, then you know what you can mostly expect here, but there are a bunch of additions which expand it just enough to make it feel like a step in a new direction. The main one of these is the Wild Area, an expansive Hyrule Field-esque area between towns where you can explore, see wild Pokemon, and participate in raid battles. Raid battles are battles against gigantic, powerful Pokemon, and while you can handle some of the weaker ones on your own, as they increase in difficulty, you need to call upon friends and strangers to tackle them with you. This adds an extra cooperative layer to the multiplayer in the game, which before would mostly focus on battling and trading with other players, and is something that gives me hope that they'll expand on in future. The Galar region itself is also mesmerising, and while I'm biased due to its basis on the UK, I think it's one of the most interesting regions we've had in a while, and looks completely different to what we've had from Pokemon before, down to the way people use British slang in their speech to how trains can be delayed by sheep overrunning the track. This is probably the most accessible and immediately fun that Pokemon has ever been, and while the story isn't much to write home about, I found the characters fun and interesting, and was fully engaged from start to finish. Plus, the music? Easily the best in the series. As the kids say, it slaps. Number 2. Apex Legends. Is it legal to have 2 Battle Royale games on a top 10 list? Well, yeah. But is it right? Also, yeah. Apex Legends was one of the biggest surprises of the year, when Respawn Entertainment, creators of the Titanfall series, announced that not only were they making a free-to-play Battle Royale game, but that it would be team-based and releasing that very day. Everyone was shocked. The Battle Royale space seemed to be locked down, with PUBG and Fortnite holding the ground, but Apex Legends released so fully formed with enough to make it stand out that it didn't really have any issues making a name for itself. It's faster paced than Fortnite or PUBG, with incredible gunplay, tight controls, and a wonderful cast of interesting characters with varying abilities, and while it's fairly more hardcore than what you might expect if you've only played the more arcadey Fortnite, it's no less fun. While this is a team-based game, a bunch of quality of life additions means that it doesn't matter if you're playing with friends or strangers. The ability to ping locations and weapons, as well as for your characters to shout out to others when various things are happening, such as when they're getting shot at, means that you don't need to rely on voice chat if you're playing with strangers, but it also means that it can help improve your strategies when playing with friends. It's a rare game that makes playing with random people fun rather than a chore. With no need for voice chat, you aren't faced with the hateful tirade you may get from other online shooters, and instead can focus solely on winning. Respawn have continued to adapt to how people play the game and have focused on making it even better throughout the year. With hero balances and a whole new map already out, it's clear that this is a game that's here to stay, and I can't wait to see what the next year of Apex brings. Number 1. Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers. How could it be anything else? Shadowbringers has helped solidify Final Fantasy XIV as the true epic of this generation and a mastery of storytelling. Shocking twists, devastating turns, and an incredible finale greet you in this expansion in a way that could only be done after being built up for years ahead of time. Taking our heroes away from the world that they call home to a split universe called the First, Shadowbringers tells the story of a world covered in light, being attacked by angel-like beings called Sin Eaters. It's up to you and your companions to bring darkness back to the land and stop the Scourge of Light from taking over. While that may sound like typical RPG fare, it's the balance of this new world story mixed in with the lingering arcs of what has come in expansions before and how it ties it all together that makes this something special. I found myself fully engrossed in this world, going out of my way to do every side quest I had available to me in order to squeeze out every morsel of lore that I could find. This is a world where you can actually see how characters are affected by it, how those left alive are doing whatever they can to survive in a world of death, betrayal and poverty. Beyond the story, the gameplay is typical MMO fare, but with incredible areas to explore and some of the best dungeons in the series, it manages to make even the most basic of quests feel interesting and exciting. Yet for all the praise I give it, and even though it's my game of the year, I find it impossible to recommend to people. Shadowbringers is the third expansion of Final Fantasy XIV and so carries the baggage of all of the expansions that came before it. You can't simply start this game and jump into Shadowbringers without having played the others. You have hundreds of hours of content to get through first. It's all great content, mind, but Shadowbringers is the best that Final Fantasy has ever been, and is something that can't even be seen until you've been through everything that has come before. So if there's a huge caveat of having to play so much before getting into this, why make Shadowbringers my game of the year? Because this game means so much to me. I've been playing Final Fantasy XIV for 6 years now, since the release of A Realm Reborn. It has been with me through highs and lows, and the many changes that life has thrown my way. It's a constant home away from home, with a group of friends I play with who are happy to see me each time I visit. I'm not alone with that, and it would be so easy for Square Enix to churn out any old expansion just to give people like me something new to play. But Shadowbringers capitalizes on what's come before and rewards you for sticking with it by making the game and the world you inhabit better than ever, with a guarantee of more adventures to come. I was deeply affected by Shadowbringers, completely encapsulated in the lands I visited and the tale it weaved. And as I said at the start of this video, with the real world continuing to spin its own chaos, sometimes a world you can escape to where you're given the chance to be the hero and make a difference with friends can be all you need to keep going. It is for me anyway. And there you are, that's it. Those are my top 10 games of the year for 2019. But the fact that you've got to the very end of this video, it suggests to me that you liked what you saw. So if you'd like, then please hit that little subscribe button below and the little bell to tell you when I upload more videos. I very much want to do more of this year. Maybe like one a month or so, but still more than what I have previously been doing. So if you'd like to support that, that would mean absolutely everything to me. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully see you again soon. Bye.